Hi, folks. Welcome back to Temporally Scripted. We're here today to go through the week's news, and you wouldn't believe that processed food might not actually be good for you, or maybe it is. We're going to dive into that later, as well as a man's obsession with Vegemite and trying to get it put as a human right. I'm not sure if it's going through the UN or not, but we'll reveal that a little bit later on. I'm joined here by my very good friend, Adam. How are you today, man?
I am very well today. It's fantastic to be here as always. Sounds like we've got some very exciting topics to cover today.
Absolutely, yeah. And it gives us a little break from the endless grey weather that is central Vietnam these days, doesn't it? So that'll be quite nice.
There is that. But I guess it's that time of year when it's like that in most places in the Northern Hemisphere.
This is true. Yeah, the sunshine of your face will take away a little bit of that pain from me today, Adam, I have to say.
And it'll take away the blues of 22 subscribers as well.
The blues of 22 subscribers will be gone away. If you do want to become the 23rd subscriber, I'm sure you've got ample opportunity to do so if you go to the bottom and hit subscribe, hit the bell, and all of that lovely stuff that we like to do. So this first news story of the week is that ultra processed food harms every major organ. So the heart is okay. There's nothing wrong with the heart
should be absolutely fine.
Ultra processed food. It's just all the other major organs.
Which, I mean, it is shocking. It's funny that could be a major headline in a newspaper because it would seem like it's kind of obvious. There's not many people in the peak of health that survive on chicken nuggets, Doritos, Mars bars, and an apple once a week. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like you're overestimating the average intelligence of a human being, to be honest. I remember that McDonald's coffee has to say, caution, hot things inside these days.
Yeah. Well, it's always like that when you see those safety signs. It's like when you go to an airport and where they have escalators, there'll be a sign saying no luggage trolleys allowed. And it's like, that's there because in the past someone's done it. There's been some horrific accident where some trolley full of luggage has gone hurtling down some escalator and like rubbished someone.
Yeah, I've even seen bollards at the end of those.
They do have them now in most airports.
Because you can't assume that people will read things.
And it's just that thing of like common sense not being that common. And it is that, I can't remember who said it, but there's something about, well, when you think about the average intelligence of people, it's like an average. So even if you're like average intelligence, half the planet is less intelligent than you. And that's quite a lot. And
yeah,
above average intelligence, that's like, it's really crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, and we do like to pull in a good graph analogy here at Temporally Scripted. But is this the bell curve?
Yeah, where it goes kind of up in the middle and down.
Yeah, so it's a bell curve of intelligence, isn't it? But I think the average is around 100 or 98, something like that.
I think it might be 110 around that somewhere. I'm not sure. We did do a very in-depth episode on this previously, so you should go check it out.
Yeah, clearly we've forgotten all the research that we did for that. But yeah, so I didn't even know personally that ultra processed food is known as UPFs. It's a bit like BFFs.
Yeah, kind of. Just less. I don't know. You can have quite toxic relationships with people. You can have toxic relationships with food, I guess.
Yeah, and is this a new, like, what's the story here? So, like, they say more than half of the average diet is now UPF. I mean, I do remember as a child, and I come from a family where it was meat and 2 veg. It's not a joke about organs that we said earlier, but meat and 2 veg sort of dinner. We ate very well. My dad would always cook, and I'd eat a lot of eggs, and generally it would be proper food because my dad was an early age boomer, so he was even before. So in fact, I think born just as the war was ending. We used to eat pretty well. If I look back to my packed lunch as a kid, I was sat making the packed lunch for my daughter last night. She can't stand eating the food at school. We live in Vietnam, and for some reason she likes sandwiches over rice, so it must come from me rather than her mum. So she asked nicely if I could make a packed lunch, and I was making this lunch yesterday, and it's like ham from the boutique place that makes like their own ham, Butcher Plus, which is in town, and then the bread is like high quality bread from Bordeaux Bakery, and then I'm using like nice cream cheese as the butter, and then I've got like nice cheese, the good quality cheese slices, not like the American plastic ones, the high quality ones.
Oh yeah, cheese flavored
Yeah,
slices.
yeah, but no, the actual good ones, right? Not the plastic ones. You can also get the real cheese sliced.
Yeah,
It's
I know
just
the ones you mean.
yeah, just thinly sliced. So it's got that, and then there's like some almonds in there, a nice quality yogurt, and then some grapes. And I look at that packed lunch, and then I think, I'm pretty sure when I was a kid, it was like a penguin or a Kit Kat.
Remember, often my packed lunch for school would be Nutella sandwiches, a bag of crisps, a chocolate bar, and a can of Tango. And that was, I mean, that's just so much sugar and just bad stuff. And all of that
Yeah,
ultra processed, basically.
yeah. So I'm kind of calling bullshit that people eat more processed food now than they did 20 years ago.
Yeah, maybe. But because ultra processed, it does include a lot of things.
Surely not a pepperami. That's not ultra processed, is it?
I think that might be ultra processed.
What about pork scratching?
I'm really sorry, but your current diet of pepperoni and pork scratchings might have to change.
How am I going to hit my protein?
Because yeah, it's just not great, but there's so much that is ultra processed. And if you think as well, it's in terms of poverty, I think, because if you are a family of 4 and you're going shopping at the supermarket, it's way cheap. Okay, but it's way cheaper to buy that 2 kilo bag of like frozen chicken nuggets than it is to buy like a ribeye steak for everybody for dinner.
Yeah, this is true.
I think that's it. Unfortunately, it's like that, and a lot of people probably would quite like to eat in a healthier way, but they kind of can't. And also, it's some of those things that kind of masquerade as being healthy, but really aren't. And so some of those like protein bars and things, they're kind of like ultra processed foods. All the ready meals that say, oh, well, it's only like 1% fat or something like that. It's like, yeah, it might be, but it's also like a load of weird ingredients that are probably worse for you than if it was 20% fat or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a secret undercover mission from Iceland to kill off all the chubbos.
Maybe it is. But I mean, that interestingly, I was watching, who was it? I think it was Dr. Mike a few weeks ago. And he was on about something similar where you have a problem with obesity and diabetes and things because people have never had this much access to high calorie, palatable food. It doesn't mean it's dead nice, but it's like I gave you example of a 2 kilo bag of chicken nuggets earlier. It's accessible to everybody in a way that wasn't before. It's like if I speak to my mum and she talks about the diet when she was a kid, it's like you probably only really have meat once a week. Like you'd have the Sunday roast kind of thing. And then through the week, you might have a little bit of something else, but it wouldn't be much in terms of actual cuts of meat and things like that. Whereas now it's like you can have your chicken nuggets, you can have your frozen burgers, you can have frozen pizza, whatever else. And it's like you can buy that really cheap stuff and it's more affordable than ever before.
It's certainly more affordable than some other stuff. I mean, I get it. It's like it is kind of more expensive. I think we're spoiled a little bit here, but even here it's still more expensive to eat healthily, to eat greens and veg and all of this kind of stuff, it's more expensive than elsewhere. I just think, Kerry Katona's prawn ring has got a lot to answer for. And these sort of deals you used to see from
This is not something I've heard of before, but okay. No,
you don't remember.
I'm sure it's a food stuff, even though it sounds like something slightly different.
So she was always on the TV advertising Iceland, as I remember when I was back in the UK. And I mean, some of the stuff you can buy in Iceland is gross. So this, by the way, this is not paid promotion for Iceland. We are not on a deal with Iceland in any way, shape, or form. I will not be advertising my prawn rings on there anytime in the near future. But yeah, I think stuff like that it's also, there's an education aspect to it as well. I think people would like to eat healthily if they are educated well enough to understand that they should.
I think there's education. I think also I wonder if it's a bit of a thing similar to tobacco and things like that, where I think it was clear that smoking cigarettes was bad for you a long time before that became official advice from the government and things like that. We know that there were different scientific reports funded by big tobacco and things like that. The sugar industry did the same thing for a little while, and they said, oh, it's saturated fat that's bad for people, you should stop this. And it's like, no, sugar's like kind of worse
pretty bad
in many respects. And I just wonder if it's a similar thing where they've tried to sort of like hide it, and because you have like food safety and things like that, something gets passed in like the 1980s or something, that's the standard. Food just has to meet this criteria, even though there might be extra stuff that's potentially untested in some ways or not researched well enough, but it still meets a certain requirement, and so it gets passed through. And maybe there's been something going on, so it isn't reported so much in the media about how bad some of this food actually is. And I mean, something's going on in society as well. If you think of like over the years, how much things like allergies have increased, diabetes, even autism, autoimmune diseases, there's something that's changed in our environment. There must be a reason for all these changes in health that people are having. We don't know what it is, but could food be one of them? You could probably argue, yeah, because if you're evolved to eat this set of foods, but then you've replaced 50% of that with this other random, who knows what, maybe that's something to do with it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and there's a couple of things. I mean, the sugar thing is obviously well known as being a problem, and part of it is because we have in the UK, we eat the lowest quality of sugar, and the reason that we eat the lowest quality of sugar is because during World War II, we couldn't import from the Caribbean, so we created our own industry of sugar beet. And then after the war, a lot of farmers were reliant upon the sugar beet markets to survive because they'd switched to growing it. So we just tariffed the import of cane sugar, which is like can be raw and unrefined and a bit better for you rather than the processing that it goes through. But it's also that more people survive. Like in the past, if you had problems, diseases or whatever when you were a baby, you probably didn't live. In general, there'll be more problems with people as they get older and as they're growing up because they might have not made it through. If you go back 150 years, a lot of kids just didn't make it past 8 or 9, which is one of the reasons that the average age is so low. It's not like in the Victorian times, people got to 40 and they were just like, oh, I think I'm ready to die now. And that was it. It was that most people didn't make it out of childhood, and that dragged the whole thing. You still had 80-year-olds around and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's just there was less of them because you generally didn't make it through childhood, or there was some kind of war that you had to go to and you got, killed in one of the lines walking up to get brutally murdered by the other side. Interns sort of vibe.
Nice. Which is basically what it was. Yeah, I guess also a lot more stuff is actually diagnosed these days compared to how it would have been in the past. It's like now you'd call it asthma or some allergy. In the past, it'd just be like, oh, wheezy. What's going on today? Oh, I don't know. Or probably things like autism or ADHD, different things they're diagnosed now, whereas they would have been diagnosed a lot less in the past if they were there. But
Yeah.
I think, but I think even with that, there does seem to be quite an uptick in a lot of health issues.
Yeah, and again, it's like a lot of people argue that our diet has changed drastically, even for what we were eating 50 years ago. Like, I'm sure you know some people that only eat meat. Like, I have a couple of friends that they eat one meal a day, and it's like a steak and a half and loads of eggs, and that's it. Maybe a bit of kimchi, but that's like their diet because they believe that we're, like cave humans wouldn't have eaten this, and they believe that eating a full meat diet is the right way. And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of vegetables from the past, but if you look at like fruit, berries, bananas, like you name it, if you look at the original varieties of these things, they're all really tiny and full of seeds, and like they're just not,
Yeah,
watermelons like this big, packed full of seeds and barely any fruit and stuff. So really, what we've been eating for the last 100 years even is still nothing close to what biologically we would be used to in terms of the clock of humanity.
yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Because I know even in my lifetime, things like watermelons, they've changed a lot. When I was a kid, you get a watermelon, there would be like a load of seeds in there, and you'd be constantly like, kind of thing, but you just don't these days anymore. You get like one or two in the slice, and that's it. Um, but yeah, all those old like heirloom varieties of food, of vegetables and things, they're very different now. And that's with like we've had agriculture for a very long time. If you actually wanted to go properly back to sort of like a paleo kind of diet, I don't know if you actually could. I mean, what would we be eating like 200,000 years ago?
Woolly mammoth.
Not a lot of them in Iceland. See, we don't just promote Iceland here. We can also find out the downfalls.
Do you mean the supermarket or the country?
The supermarket, I don't want to upset potential viewers in Iceland.
Yeah, that's true. We don't get a lot in Vietnam, though. I don't think I've ever met an Icelandic person from Iceland in Vietnam so far. But yeah, I think as well, it's country specific as well, right? Like, I think one of the reasons the UK is an interesting one with food because we don't really have any high end culinary magic in the UK. And I think we're generally a running joke for how bad our food is in pretty much every country in the world. But it's like paradoxically, we also have like more Michelin starred chefs than anywhere else in the world. But all of those Michelin starred chefs cook like Italian or French or whatever.
Yeah, and I would
And
imagine most of those restaurants are in London, which is England in some ways.
yeah, and food is like it's more of a something you have to do. And I wonder if that's the same in the US, whereas like, in Italy and France and Spain, I would guess the same. It's like a 2 hour lunch affair every day. People sit down and they enjoy their meals, and it's like part of the culture and the process to
It's,
to
I
eat
think
like that.
there's a lot of countries where food is just more of like an important aspect of culture and society. Definitely places like Spain, Italy, France. It's just like a really big thing to sort of sit down, have a good meal with good company, and that's like part of the thing. It's always like really good, tasty, fresh food. And I mean, one bit of data that we could look at is if we think of like the countries that live the longest, the people with the biggest health spans, it's not the countries that eat the most ultra processed foods.
No, no. I mean, this is why they only work like 35 hours a week in France because they need those extra 4 hours for eating lunch.
There's something about France I really like though, because it's like a little while ago they tried to raise the retirement age, and I think wanted to raise it to like 62 or 63, something like that. And it's like that's it. Everyone's out on the streets protesting. They just go wild if the government tries to like change anything or like make them work more or anything like that. It's really funny.
Yeah, they protest like crazy as well. It's like you're literally burning stuff down and like setting fire to things, and like concreting buses. I remember there was a truck strike where they start concreting like buses into the road. Even when Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League, they started setting fire to stuff in the capital. Even when they win something, it's like, okay, we're just going to burn down the capital now. Don't mess with them.
I wonder if it comes from like revolutionary history of that country, like French Revolution and stuff. It's like, oh, there's a bourgeoisie, right? Guillotine.
That's it. Yeah,
chopping people's heads off left.
We're going to cut your head off. So they're never going to stand for ultra processed food. It's one of those. Like it's. I mean, just one of the things I just read from the notes here, though, just moving it back to ultra processed food. So it says that some of them can be nutritionally decent. I don't trust that phrase. That sounds a bit off to me. Nutritionally decent. Decent's not good, is it? It's not like saying it's good. It's like, it's all right. It was decent.
I think probably what it means is, a little bit like with breakfast cereals when you're a kid, it says all these additives for like the different vitamins that it's got. So it's got, you've got vitamin B, you've got blah, blah, blah. It's probably like that. Or it covers some of the bases, like, it's got this amount of fiber, this amount of protein, the fat content, sugar content isn't too high. But let's not talk about the other stuff that's in there.
Yeah, I do question this with like protein powder, because I found a source recently here that's like imported Australian whey, and it's just pure whey, and it tastes a bit like coffee, mate. And that's like, it's just pure whey protein. And when I was using that, it felt better than using the other stuff that's like, strawberry milkshake flavored like whey protein. Yeah. And so as much as they don't add a lot of sugar, it's like multi-dextrose or whatever it is instead.
Yes, I mean, going off topic a lot here, really, but does it change like the amino acid profile and how your body would absorb those proteins? Because I know it can vary absorption depending on amino acids and some other things as well, actually, that they often add to protein powder.
So that you absorb it quicker. I mean, obviously, I'm turning into a beefcake, so whatever's working, it's there. But yeah, I wonder if humans would be considered ultra processed food.
It depends how you cook and preserve them, I guess.
So it's not like how they're reared. There's no involvement there, because there's a whole rabbit hole we could start to open up about that, right? If you started looking into the rearing of animals and the production of things.
And all this stuff where it says, it's grass fed. And it's like, it was fed grass for 2 weeks before you killed it. That's kind of a little bit misleading, to say the least.
Yeah, exactly. Or the kind of grass that it's fed is like already chemically, grown and produced. And I think this is a lot of it, isn't it? It's like, where does even the food of the things that you're eating? Like there's stuff now where they link corn. I can't remember the exact story, so I won't go into it in too much depth, but they link corn to all sorts of problems in humans, and like eating corn's not supposed to be good for you. So then if you eat a corn-fed chicken or whatever, then you're eating the same thing, but just through the chicken. So, I mean, you can't really win, can you? I used to drink every day and smoke, so the fact that I eat reasonably healthy now, I don't care.
A little bit of corn is probably going to be okay.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on, because we've got bona fide proof coming up right now that global warming is a thing. So it's 100% guaranteed. Apparently, we have some sudden stratospheric warming and a polar vortex. So, verified news story. We've got a very early sudden stratospheric warming event, and it's forming over the Arctic right now, which means that the temperatures in the stratosphere are expected to jump by 20 to 25 degrees C. Does it mean we're going to get a few days of not endless rain here in Da Nang?
I don't think it makes a difference. I'm not interested. Let's move on.
Yeah, next story.
This doesn't affect me. If it's someone else far away on the planet, well,
Well, we might get a more wavy jet stream, but I don't know if that's for like something that surfers should be pleased about or not.
Not that high up, I wouldn't think. But but yeah, so as I understand it, it means that it could heat up the vortex, and it could either disrupt it or displace it. It could even actually change in direction. And this could cause, even though that's heating up, it could actually cause cooler weather to a lots of places in the northern hemisphere as the cold air is basically displaced. Which, yeah, when I read this article, I was like, I didn't really know what to make of it, really. It just says, oh, this could happen. It could be quite bad. It could not happen as well. I don't know. I just didn't know what to make of it so much, really.
Do you think the weather is just like they just make it up as they go along?
We're really bad at predicting weather.
Yeah, it's something like 80% in 24 hours, right? Something like that.
I don't know exactly, but it's one of those really complex systems that we get kind of right sometimes, but then we just completely don't because there's just so many variables. It's one thing that AI will be really useful for in the future is being able to predict weather, because we'll have like the compute to be able to put in all the different variables that we have and make a kind of a more probabilistic prediction, the ones we have now.
I'm pretty good at it this time of year. It's going to be grey and wet for like the next 2.5, 3 weeks, at least.
Exactly. And it's a bit like that in the UK as well. Once you hit November time, even like mid-October, you're sort of like, what's the weather like tomorrow? Probably grey and miserable, might rain.
You can pretty much predict. You can pretty much predict like August as well. Like in the UK, it's usually highly disappointing, and then September it normally gets sunny again because that's when you go back to school, right? You have your 6 weeks holidays. You're like, it's gonna be awesome. We'll do loads of stuff. It's raining. It's raining again. It's still raining, and then it's like, oh, September back to school. Yeah, we're just gonna be sunny now for 3 weeks. I reckon it's like some kind of reward for the parents.
Maybe it is, yeah. And parents can have a bit of time out and all that kind of thing.
You know, it's like you've had to deal with the kids at home all summer. The universe goes, you know what? Let's give them parents a bit of sunshine in September. You know, all the people that don't have children that have had to deal going places with kids everywhere all summer that want to go on cheaper holidays in September. It's like,
which I mean, there is something about that. If you don't have kids, like, and say you've got some time off and it's like during the school holidays and you're in the UK, you think, oh, I'll just go into the city centre for a bit. And then you look around and there's just people everywhere and you got to have some food somewhere, and some kids screaming, whatever. Oh, this is terrible. So I don't know, maybe it's nice that nature works in a way to make it nice and sunny so you can take some time off if you don't have family in September.
Yeah, this is it. It just gives you something back for all the, typhoons and hurricanes and stuff that it throws around the rest of the year. Yeah.
Exactly. Going back to this story, what struck me about it is it seemed, as many news articles do, it seemed quite alarming at first. And then as I read through it, it just seemed like it was less and less to worry about. And it's like, oh, there's a potential this could happen. But do you think a lot of news is kind of like clickbaity and things like that?
As someone who's a marketer, it's just to make people scared, to make them want to read more. And humans, we've got an addiction to fear. It's the thing that drives all of our decisions. People are much more likely to move for fear of something bad happening than they are of potential reward of something good happening. Like, for example, if I say to you, oh, if you go to the gym, you're going to get really fit and strong and you'll have a decent body and you'll probably live longer. That makes you less likely to go than me saying, if you don't go to the gym, you're probably going to get fat and die sooner. People will think you're disgusting when you're on the beach with your top off. That's more likely to motivate you. Yeah. And it's human nature. We see it play out in a million different things. It's, the same reason people sit and watch like serial killer dramas on Netflix and stuff is like, there's just some weird thing about humans where we get addicted to the feeling of that. So that's why news does it, I think, for two ways. One, to keep people worried, and two, to keep you reading. You want to read more stuff. It's like, I think we all have a thing where we like reading about bad shit happening to other people as well. And I don't know why, but I think we just do.
It's really strange. And that danger thing as well. I know for a little while I was watching like space weather news. It's this guy that monitors the sun and kind of solar flares and things like that, and but different amounts of it, increased activity. And there's a few times when you'd be watching, it's like, oh, it doesn't look so good, and it's been like a near miss and things like that for Earth, and it's like I stopped watching it because it's incredibly interesting, and some of the stuff he's going on, it's like it's good to know, but I just decided there's a lot of things out there that can make you scared, and I don't know if it improves the quality of my life knowing about it.
No, I agree. Honestly speaking, the only time I look at news is when we're figuring out the things that we're going to discuss. This is like my weekly news hour where I can actually look at some things and give my opinion and thoughts on it, because the rest of the time it's just garbage, And we know when we're trying to find news stories that are interesting to talk about, most of it is just fearmongery and
Yeah.
nonsense and
Or just complete opinion rather than anything that's anywhere remotely balanced, which I've found a lot reading stuff. Sometimes just in like the first couple of lines, and you're like, huh? That's in a newspaper?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because when we were looking earlier on at what category our channel should be in, right? Because we talk about a lot of news and politics, but we also, it's entertainment, we're tongue in cheek with what we do. And it said, oh no, don't put yourself into news because you're not talking about like the facts and reporting on the news. Well, you could argue that about most of the major Western news platforms, couldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, did you see that thing with the BBC recently where two of them had to, I don't know if they had to resign or got fired, but there was some like, they made this panorama thing, and they, the January the 6th thing with Donald Trump, they edited the footage. So it basically, they have a clip of them from like the start of his speech and then another clip from like 40, 50 minutes in, and spliced it together. So it makes it sound like he's saying, okay, and we're going to go down to that building and we're going to do all this. And it's like, totally didn't say it. So he's now like on about suing the BBC because they actually edited this and put it out there. And that's just like, whether you're a Trump fan, whether you hate him, either way, you've got to think that's not good,
Yeah, it's a good use of taxpayers' money in the UK, of license fee payers' money, that they can go and try and slander people that are running other countries, regardless of what you believe. The idea is they're supposed to report the truth, and that doesn't happen anywhere near
They
enough.
basically fabricated something completely false. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
just
wild.
mental. And also, it's like they got caught doing it. I wonder how many other things are going on that people haven't been caught for. Because if you think about criminals, like dealers, when they get arrested, it wasn't like the first time they did it that they got caught. They've probably been doing it for like years or something. And I would imagine it's much the same with this kind of thing.
Yeah, so again, it could be the case that I mean, certainly the weather has changed, but for what reasons, I think is quite difficult to know. And I'm not saying I know one way or another why it is, but clearly the weather we've had here this year has been like bad. But then last year was similar. The year before, it was sunny throughout the wet season pretty much. And I think since I've lived in Da Nang, it's mostly been pretty good in the wet season. And maybe these last couple of years are just more of a return to what it was before that,
Yeah, it could be. But at the same time, it was Lin Hui, where it was like the worst flooding in like 50, 60 years or something like that. Which it has happened before, but it's been a long time. And then it kind of happened again just in the last week, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're talking a lot. Anyway, so moving on to something a little bit lighter in the middle of today's show. Well, maybe lighter. I have a feeling that you're going to have a strong opinion on this next news story.
I have no strong opinions about anything.
Oh, okay, let's just move on. All right, thank you for joining us today, guys. So we've had the first AI hit in the form of a country song, and
Or
it's
have
fully AI generated. Yeah, it's called Walk My Walk. It's not a number one like people said that it was, but it's got like 2.3 million monthly Spotify listeners, and apparently it's a fully AI generated song.
crazy, huh? I remember talking about AI generated music maybe like a year ago or 9 months ago, something like that, and just sort of going, yeah, it's all right, but you can always tell it's AI and it's not that good, really. But then in just a really short space of time, we've got this thing where, I mean, I listened to this track earlier and I wasn't like, oh, I love this, but I was like, that's pretty good in some ways. The lyrics are terrible. There's other bits of it that really ain't good, but it's
But
like it ticks a lot of boxes of what makes a song catchy, what makes a song good.
the lyrics not always terrible when it's country anyway.
Pretty much, it's usually about like horses or donkeys, or so, as far as I understand. Just
Yeah, I mean,
to
don't get me
offend some
wrong.
country music fans.
After watching Yellowstone, I do listen to some country. It's because I like to drive around in my car and pretend that I've got horses and that, you know, on a ranch in Montana. So I do partake in a little bit of country every now and again. But yeah, I'm not sure it's particularly well known for the depth or quality of the lyrics. So maybe that's an accurate representation.
It could be. Also, I mean, musically, it wasn't like particularly, there wasn't a lot to it in some ways, but it just sounded quite well done. It seems like it was, so I think something's going on here because just like a lot of people, I'd seen these headlines of like AI generated music goes to number one, go, wow, really? That seems, wow, that happened fast. But then you look into it, and also watched a Rick Beato bit on his channel. He's a really great guy, Rick Beato, for anything music. But he was saying, yeah, but like, look at it. It's actually just from like 3,000 downloads because it's number one on the downloads chart, not the official Billboard thing. And so a download is 99 cents. So basically, it seems like, and also it's like, who's downloading this? Because it's like no one really pays for music these days. And so perhaps someone's just gone, right, I'll spend $3,000 and I'll download this and it'll go to number one. That'll drive more people to my Spotify, to my YouTube, to everything else. I don't know if it's just been like a really clever promotion in the way.
Mystery solved. I would say so. Yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing that people would do. I thought you were going to say it's like number one in some random list for like some obscure website somewhere.
Oh, right.
You know, like, oh, it's
really love this.
yeah, like it's the first number one in the, you know, country lovers of Utah, like hit parada or whatever it is, you know. So
at the same time, though, that thing having 2.3 million monthly subscribers, that's a lot. So I think maybe people like it. On reading that article, there was a couple of other AI generated songs on there. I gave them a bit of a listen, and yeah, man, I've got to tell you, it's not amazing, but it's getting good. And I can see why someone would listen to that and go, yeah, it's really catchy. I don't know what the future will be with AI music, but it looks like it's moving pretty fast. And the fact that so many people are listening to it would tell me that maybe people are starting to like it. Some people don't care that it's AI. I would imagine that there's some younger generations that actually like it because it's AI. And they go, oh, this is just really cool.
yeah, I mean, linking it to that, it's almost hard to tell now as well. Obviously, you can't go and watch these bands yet, but you could probably create like a Gorillaz style show where you can go and watch the versions of them on stage at concert or whatever else. But just back to AI and voice quality, like I have a UK number on my phone. I have an eSIM so that I can get calls and my business is registered in the UK and stuff. And now I get sales calls because obviously my number's out there. So they start phoning it and I get sales calls. And recently I've been getting AI calls where you listen and the AI speaking to you. You can even hear the noises in the background of the call center. It's like got call center noise in the background. And it's so accurate that the first time I got one, I was even questioning whether to ask it if it was AI or not. And the thing that sort of gave it away is it had an American accent rather than British accent, which is like, well, that's weird. But I had to think twice, and I was like, is this an AI? It's like, oh, yeah, you got me. I'm an AI, and I'm calling on behalf of this. And I was like, but even me who uses AI all day, every day, and is fully aware that there are these systems available, was like, is this a person? Should I ask if it's AI or not? It was really like close. Yeah.
And it's just, I think that's another example of that thing of just more and more things being replaced by AI. And so, and I mean, we said it ages ago, it's like call centers probably won't last that long because AI will do it better. It seems to now be creeping in a lot more into like the creative arts and things like that. And I don't know, I've watched a few different things recently where it's various like experts talking about it from different points of view. And it's like, for ones that seem really pro the AI thing and say there's nothing to worry about, they either own AI companies or they're just geeks that think the technology is really cool and they want to use it. Whereas like on the other side, you've got ones that like, no, this is really, really dangerous. And it's like, all right, so who are you? Oh, I left this company because of safety concerns. Oh, right, okay. And you seem to actually think about what's going on. Because to me, it seems like the ones that are real about it know that there's a threat, and it just reminds me of when we were kids and you'd have adverts and things saying, don't play with matches. But like you're a little kid, you play with matches, oh, well, that's really cool. And it's like, yeah, it's cool until all of a sudden there's a news report of like 2 kids die tragically in a house fire because they were playing with matches. And it's like, it just feels to me like what we're doing with AI is just that. It's like playing with matches, and we've got to be really, really careful.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think, it's not going to get any less crazy. Yesterday we had Gemini 3 come out, and some of the reports I'm seeing of what it can do are insane. But then that being said, there's always a bit of hype around stuff, and, I do question how far it can actually go, particularly given what the powers that be want to, they do sort of need this like celebrity and artistic culture. What's always interesting about it is that you think AI would come in and do all the things that we don't want to do, but it seems to be coming in and doing all the creative stuff and leaving us with like all the crap that we don't want to
do. And we'll all work to keep the economy going so that we can keep the data centers running.
Because it's like we also, I mean, what we mentioned a couple of episodes back about the AI humanoid bots that will work in your house, like that, it turns out they're actually controlled by a human. So the human's like looking through the camera and controlling the robot from a distance. It's not actually AI, so it's like someone in some low-paid country, like
that's terrible.
cleaning your house from a few thousand miles away.
Your toilet. Like what?
Yeah, like what is that about? So that's an interesting one. So this story came up this week where there's an Australian prisoner who is suing for his human right to eat Vegemite. Right? This guy.
Of course he is.
Yeah, I mean, I love a little bit of Marmite myself. I do have some super aged Marmite in my fridge that I bought back from the UK 9 years ago. That I confirm it's still edible. It's extra mature at this stage.
Well, I don't know. I've never bought it.
So a jar of Marmite's like this big, and you need like this much per serving.
It's kind of like bitter and weird.
And really it's delicious. Yeah, so I can. It's it's actually the byproduct of brewing. At least in the UK, Marmite. Obviously, Vegemite is an Australian thing. Marmite is a UK thing. But yeah, there's a couple of things about this story that made me laugh. He's suing because he says that it's his human right to enjoy his culture as an Australian, and as a 54-year-old serving a life sentence for murder, he deserves to eat and enjoy his culture. So the reason that it's been banned, and this line also made me laugh because it sounds funny if you're not from Australia. So it says Vegemite has been banned in Victorian prisons since 2006, partly because inmates use it to mask the smell of drugs from sniffer dogs. But it made me laugh because when it says Victorian prison, I think
you
like
expected.
petticoats and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Geezer.
But obviously, yeah. All right, geezer. Got any of that? Actually, it's the state of Victoria. What do you think about this? Is like, should you be able to commit a crime such as murder and then be in prison for life and sort of kick off about what you were allowed to eat or
I
not?
mean, he was young at the time when he murdered someone. He was in his like
So
early
that's fine.
20s, something like that. But I think maybe he didn't sort of think things through properly, because maybe it's not. You have certain human rights even in prison, like water, something to eat. It doesn't necessarily cover Vegemite, you know. I don't think there's any reason why it should be a human right to someone when they've murdered someone.
Yeah, or in general in prison. I just get it.
No, I don't really understand how he's going to argue it. I mean, I guess it is a big sort of cultural thing in Australia, but maybe you should just understand that going to prison is kind of bad and you might not get everything that you want in there. Because then it's like, what else would you say that's like a human right? What could you extend it to?
Yeah, like, having relationship with somebody, like coming in and seeing you, like, now and again. That's not, Barry from Cell 5.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's
from Vegemite. You then say, "Oh, like I haven't had like lobster for a while. I think as part of my culture, I should be having lobster a bit more often." You know, where do you draw the line with that? I think his argument's pretty thin.
Me too. I would say it's almost as thin as a layer of Vegemite on toast. Yeah, and if I was the judge dealing with this case, that's what I would say. And obviously there is the aspect of it. This might be me making assumptions, but as soon as I see that, it does make me think maybe he is using it as what you can use it for, which is to brew some form of alcohol in prisons. And it's like, I want Vegemite because you've ruined my drug smuggling and fake alcohol brewing business that's been making my life more comfortable. I want my moonshine back if I'm going to be stuck in here for life for the murder that I committed. But yeah, it's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, sure. But it's one of those really like Australian things, isn't it? We Vegemite, mate. And it's like
exactly
sort of like in the UK with Marmite, and people love it or hate it. And it's that weird, like funny polarization. In Norway, they have something similar where it's like when you chop logs, do you store them with the bark up or with the bark down? It's like a similar sort of, so different cultures have like weird things like love-hate things. It's interesting.
Yeah. There's that thing in the UK with like cups of tea. Do you put the milk in first or the milk in after?
Oh, well, it'd have to be after.
Yeah, but that's it. Like my dad used to be a milk in first individual. And, then you have to make sure the tea brews long enough to make it strong enough. You can't just it's not like a one dip. Some people make a cup of tea, it's like bag in, out.
Oh, yeah, there's a special place in hell for people like that.
Yeah, for just like, a this dip. So, there's all kinds of these things. Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
I mean, we're talking about ultra processed food earlier, but this isn't ultra processed. But with tea, the tea bag, that's giving you microplastics. Because if you think about it, if it was just like paper, you put the tea bag in, it just dissolve. It's actually got like coating on it and things like that. So it's actually, even drinking a cup of tea, you're getting a nice amount of like plastics and things.
Lovely. And the bags are also bleached as well, aren't they? Because white paper is always bleached.
Nice. I didn't think that, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's finish off with something that's nice that you pulled together in the research. And of course, as British people, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but we do have an international audience. I'm sure some of the people in our 22 subscribers are from the US. And to be fair, we are getting thousands of views on our shorts now. So there may well be some US in there. That's definitely not me and Adam watching things on repeat.
2,500 times.
2,500 times. So let's run down a little hit parade, linking it back to our story about AI music, of the top 5 Thanksgiving injuries and illnesses. Ending on a happy note today.
Sounds pretty good. Let's end it with a trip to the hospital.
So what have we got at number 1?
Number one, I see it as cuts and lacerations.
Yeah,
Which
interesting.
is kind of obvious because, I mean, you carve in turkeys and things like that. And I guess because it's a big meal as well, you're doing more prep, cutting vegetables, sometimes using things that you wouldn't use so often, like sort of sharper knives or like a mandolin or something like that, and cut the end of your fingers off.
Yeah, one of those like electric knives. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it's Thanksgiving. Everyone's in high spirits. People are on the old like eggnog, whatever else, getting merry, and more accidents happen.
Yeah. So that does. It makes total sense. And I have actually cut my finger at Christmas because I usually cook for a lot of people. So I can appreciate that. But I've never been to hospital because I'm British and I'm a man. So you just wrap it up in some kind of like whatever you've got around, kitchen towel, a bit of tape left over from the gift, slice of bacon, and then just just drink more and smoke more and you forget about it. So
good times.
What have we got at number 2?
Burns and scalds. So from ovens, hot oil, and other boiling liquids. A bit like number 1, really. Except, have you ever seen the turkey fryers that they have in America?
No, that sounds deadly.
I think this is where the majority of the burns are coming from. So it's like, imagine like a big sort of metal bucket, basically. You just fill it up with cooking oil. It heats up, and then you dip the whole turkey into it, and that's how you cook the turkey.
And if people put a frozen one in, it's like blows up the whole house.
Yeah. Or if you get the oil way too hot, or various things like that, or you just knock it over. I think people would usually do it in the garden and stuff like that, but it's pretty dangerous. It's not how I would go about cooking a turkey. But at the same time, I would imagine it keeps it kind of like sort of moist, rather than if you cook a turkey in the oven and you're leaving it in there for a couple of hours, whatever, no matter what you do with tin foil and stuffing, it's going to come out kind of dry.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I never bother with turkey, even at Christmas. Yeah, it is a dry bird.
Really is. Okay.
Well, we got a number 3.
Number 3, sports injuries. This could be a number of things. In what I read, it said, well, it could be from people not warming up properly. That could be one of them. Sometimes it's playing games like American football, but with your family, like out in the garden or something, except you're like a 15-stone bloke who's been drinking Miller Lite all day, and your nephew is like not quite so big.
Yeah, and it's
getting the ball off him regardless.
Yeah, I can imagine that causing some fun. Like you start let's go and play some rugby in the garden. I mean, it's gonna be it's
cousin's
deadly.
That you never really liked very much. And
yeah. So what's 4?
Number 4 is head injuries from things like falling off ladders while decorating and slipping over, because it will be
banging your head repeatedly against the wall because you've had to spend so many hours with your family.
Exactly that. Just like in England this time of year, some parts of the States, it will be really icy, so people will slip over. I guess another one as well, and the same thing happens every year in the UK with Christmas decorations. Someone will be putting some decorations up maybe on the roof or something like that, and then fall off, or they'll be on some ladders doing something, the ladders give way, or it's all that kind of thing as well.
And what's the 5th one on the list that Americans should be looking out for this week?
The last one is stomach illnesses and food poisoning. Usually from undercooked poultry and improper food handling.
And over drinking, I would
I
probably
think
add
that's
to
a
that
big
list.
part because you're not really as diligent as you would be if you've been on the sauce for a bit. I think also as well, sometimes in America, they do this thing called a potluck where you'll have like a Thanksgiving party and everyone will bring something. And so if you
Ah,
just have like, because I guess then you kind of like boosting the odds. So if you've got like 15 people, everyone's bringing something, but Larry isn't really great with washing his hands or any aspect of food hygiene, then everyone gets sick from whatever Larry's apple pie
pigs
or
in
whatever,
blankets, or yeah, if that's even a thing out
or
there.
blankets in pigs. I don't know.
Crazy. Well, listen, your American friends watching along to this, like, happy Thanksgiving for you next week. Make sure you wash your hands and you don't drink too much. And if you are going to play American football, leave little Johnny out of it. There's no need. I know he's a little shit, but there's no need to like sack him and send him to the hospital with a ruptured spleen. It is a festive time of year. Give thanks. That's the idea, right? Awesome. If you managed to get to the end and you've enjoyed our stories today, don't forget to like and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. It makes a big difference to us. You wouldn't believe the celebrations and parties me and Adam have when we get another subscriber.
Oh, and if you're someone who's watched this show before or quite a lot, then just drop a comment. It'd be really good to hear from you, and we'll get back to you. And it'd just be really interesting as well to see who's out there, and we might even mention you on air.
Yeah, absolutely. We will be sat waiting for those comments to come in. So thank you very much, and we appreciate it. Adam, it's been a pleasure.
As always, my friend.
We will see you all again next week. Goodbye.